Allah.
Oh, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Rest assured that one is no problem.
Yeah, so like I said, I've been I've been trying to help him, man. And
No problem, no problem. Wallahi, we will do everything that is necessary to take care of this issue.
yeah, but I told him I said you get your CDL license and stuff like that, but he don't want to put the work in.
No,
That's the thing.
right, right. No, it's difficult, sometimes people procrastinate and all type of things, but when it's time, it's time. Allah's decree is definitely a promise, and it does come to pass. Yeah, no problem. But I see. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions because there was a time I remember you mentioning about the mission. You said.
Yes.
Yeah, you remember that, like Shah Sahib mission, you said to me that his mission, I had to accept or whatever. I mean, you were saying that he had a mission and all that. So you were in like that mind frame. And I understand recently you stepped out of that mind frame and you did research that.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really sold on it from the beginning.
mhm.
To be honest with you, so I was always doing some research and asking Allah Ta'ala to open my eyes and allow me to see the truth. So it finally it finally manifested, and I was like, I can't be doing shirk. Allah doesn't forgive shirk; He forgives everything else but shirk. And what I recognize is that they would do a whole bunch of shirk. That's what they do. You know what I mean? You can't associate yourself with shirk. You can't do it as a Muslim.
Okay, so why do you say a whole lot of shirk? What do you mean specifically or particularly?
Well, the fact that they believe in the Trinity. It came out Hussein Adams' mouth is on YouTube. They always put Gilani on above, like a bubble on above the whole Hussein, you know what I mean? You can't do that. You know what I mean? And their mission is basically, self-serving and it's basically a cult, man. It's mind control, it's manipulation. Transparency is not a thing with them. They're not transparent with their finances. They're not transparent in what they do as far as trying to practice things.
So I mean, when you say like they're not transparent about finances, and I think that also is very, that's a very broad statement.
Meaning that you have a right to, according to the Quran and Sunnah, you have a right to ask,
Mm-hmm.
or a person in authority or administration. You have a right to ask them how do you get your finance? How do you make your finances? How did you get this Mercedes Benz if you got a Mercedes Benz? How did you get this big house if you got a house?
Right.
You have a right to ask them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So if they want to say, well, it's none of your business, or or they send some thugs up to your house and say, you out this Jamaat because you asked a question, then it is what it is. It is what it is.
Mm. I mean, at what point, like you said, Allah manifested it, and so when did you like what really?
I looked at R2F. I was reading Quran and Hadith, and I was listening and R2F and some of the Muslims that I interact with. We had dialogue, and that I came to the conclusion that this is not our Islam.
It's not our Islam. But you had actually been in it for a while though, right? From 90, was it 90? Yeah.
I got married in 1994.
94, right.
Yeah.
So you practically had married into it, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then, like, so at what point, like, when you married into it, you said you were never really for it, but if you don't mind me asking, I'm just wondering, like, how much did you feel, or when did you feel like, I was really part of the Jamaat? Like, when did you really sense that you were really a Shah Sahib Talib, that you were Talib of Shah Sahib?
I was never a Talib.
You were never a
Talib? I was never a Talib. Never.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going with the flow, just wanted to be accepted, You know what I'm saying? Just trying to find my way, trying to find my place in the community that I thought was good.
So how about and now that you say you were never a Talib, that's revealing information. So how would you see those who were Talibs? I mean, were they coming off as like special Talibs? Because this is like a focal point.
No, they were coming up. They were coming across as arrogant, haughty. There was a lot of nepotism going on as far as treatment and stuff like that, and they just thought it was better than everybody else.
They did. So do you think that was a result of them, reading, certain muamalat that they thought was going to make them superior, or was it just the fact that it was, like you said, nepotism, where they're just caring about each other's family?
Well, could you what would you say that? Could you repeat that for me again?
Sure. Do you think that their actions, or did they come across in how they presented themselves to you? You said that they came across as arrogant and boastful, what have you. Do you think that this was a result of their nepotistic ideology, because you mentioned cult earlier, or do you think it could have been a result of certain mu'amalat, spiritual poems that they were reading?
It was a combination of things. Indoctrination from Mr.Gilani. His teachings, it wasn't coming from the Quran and Sunnah. Nothing really came from the Quran and Sunnah. They really don't follow the Sharia. So see, I mean, I didn't know it at the time, but as time progressed, like I said, I've done my personal research myself, and based off of certain things, experiences, and trying to equate or trying to reference certain things that I witnessed, it didn't correlate with the Quran and Sunnah.
In other words, you couldn't find any justification from the Quran or from any example of Rasulullah.
No.
Okay. Have you heard of the term the white hawk? Are you familiar with this term?
Yeah, there was something they gave Gilani about why he could fly, or he could, be places and come in your house and you wouldn't know he's there, and crazy stuff like that.
Okay. And so would it surprise you? What would you say to the assertion that this white hawk was what would you say to the assertion that this white hawk was his talibs and his talibs were him? What would you say to that?
I'd say it was fabricated.
Okay.
I mean, there's no truth, no credence to that.
And in all of the time that you were with TMLA, I mean, did his actual talibs, like, did you get to maybe see them? Because this is also part of the White Hawk. That there's
Did I get to see some of the talibs?
Yes. So what?
Yeah, I mean, Hussein Adams, and you got what's his name, Khalil. I mean, all these men were talibs. You know what I'm saying? Pratik, you got Muhammad, what's his name, Hasib. Man, all these. I was.
Shed some light on, okay, pertaining to the White Hawk and the talibs of the White Hawk. All right. But because you weren't a talib, right? You said you were never a talib. You were just part of the. You were just part.
I was exiled. I was the community because I guess certain things that I was paying my percent, or what they call it, the membership dues. They don't want my membership dues anymore, and I had to go to New York, and it was Hussein Adams, and never got resolved, and so it was at a stalemate.
Okay. Are you familiar with there's a Qasida Ghawsiyya, The Flight of the White Hawk, all right? Yeah. And if I will send you a copy of what I have, like just a page. And when I read it to you, I want you to take into consideration that there is a possibility that it wasn't just about, things that you actually knew, but there was really they could have been about what they were reading, these spiritual poems, because there's a few things that people need to understand when it comes to Sufism, right, or Tasawwuf itself. If you don't have the authority to give the prescription, or really, it's the dhikr, the wird. If you don't have that authority to give, you don't have the silsila, you're causing problems. And I actually looked up this qasida on the internet. Okay. Supposedly, this is a qasida by Abdul Qadir Jilani, right? And as far as it goes, those who sit and do this qasida together correctly, they will fly together into a realm of spiritual world, a realm of spiritualism, where they will find the white hawk embodied. Allah Ta'ala is there, Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is there, Jesus the son of Mary is there, and Ibrahim. Musa is there. Musa is also there. They're saying at this point, well, if I just read it, I mean, maybe that will, it's not that long, maybe about 3 minutes. But I think that the point is that it's possible what you're saying is from the reading. I mean, and this is his Futuh Muhammadiyah. This is a book that he actually compiled, okay? So during the journey, seekers come across many secrets which they do not disclose in the physical world, right? That's the secrecy you're talking about. During such flights, seekers leave their bodies and cross all the realms of physical and spiritual created worlds and enter La Makan, situated in Lahut, where they very often see a golden white hawk under whose wings they continue their esoteric flight in heaven of Lahut, where eventually they find their destination, close companionship of Allah. Blessing and peace be on him and Isa, the son of Mary, Musa and Ibrahim. This hawk is spiritually of Hazrat Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani. What do you say? Is there a possibility that these talibs believed in this stuff and now they treated everybody with the mindset that you asserted? Is there a possibility of that?
No question. No question.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they do claim to be Qadri Sufis, correct?
What's that?
They claim to be Sufis of the Qadri order, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever known who Mubarak Jilani's Sheikh was? Yeah, I mean, did anybody ever disclose to you who actually was who gave him the Qadri order, or who gave him the Qadri dhikr?
No.
Okay. I mean, we're trying to find the facts in the situation, and facts keep popping up that, I mean, as you mentioned in your research, you could not find anything to substantiate, what they were asserting. And I think there's also not that I think, there's a video now about how, Mubarak Jilani really meant to, them Muslims of TMOA, Muslims of America. And they're singing these songs that they're singing. And this one, it says that something along like what he says is what we say, or what I say. Or what I say is what he says. And what he says is nothing other than, he doesn't say anything of his own. He's something, he doesn't say anything, and he's the best example of Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. All right. There's a problem with that because Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam had the Quran, like he recited the Quran. He didn't write it, he couldn't write or read, but he recited. This was his miracle. If you are making up things in front of the Quran and trying to do things that you really have no business doing because you have no recitation, I don't know why anybody did not mention that before. So there's an issue there. But I think that there are a lot of people, like you said, there's secrecy in the finances. Would you agree that there's also secrecy in the practices?
No, no question. Definitely. Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Inshallah, I think we're gonna have to continue the dialogue, because it's I find a lot of spiritual elements which have to be made known to the people. One example is the issue of magic, right? He was using sihr and he taught people sihr. You're familiar with that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's a big no-no in Islam. As a matter of fact, strangely enough,
Allah forbids it.
What's that?
Allah forbids it.
Listen, I think it was 2 or 3 nights ago, right? Your wife mentioned that, okay? And it wasn't until last night or the night before I was reading Hazrat Usman's era. And one of the first cases that he had to preside over in his era was the death of a sorcerer. Now, this death was ordered by Ummuna Hafsa. Ummuna Hafsa, the mother of the believers, Hafsa. She ordered the death of the sorcerer, her servant who was using magic on her. Right? Sayyidina Uthman rebuked her for it. He rebuked her because of the fact. And by the way, a very interesting story, and I'm gonna leave off with this. Imagine just 2 or 3 nights ago, your wife brings it like that was the first time. Well, it wasn't the very first time that I heard the possibility. I knew there was a possibility, but it was the very first time to get a definite, like this was indeed a first testimony. But in any regard, this murder took place, and Uthman rebuked Hafsa for ordering the murder. And when the brother of Hafsa, Abdullah ibn Umar, I believe it was, came to Uthman, Amir al-Mu'mineen, and he said to him, "Why are you rebuking her? We all know that this, sorcerer deserved to die. We all know that their penalty was death." And he says, "Yes, we all know that, but there is no right for anyone to take matter into their own hands without coming to us first." So that's the only reason why he rebuked her, right? But that was, very, very strange to have been read just a few days apart from the actual I mean, I didn't know, right? But we definitely knew that there were knots that were blown into by Hafiz Shafiq. He had been given some ayahs of the Holy Quran and to blow into these knots and to tie it on the person, and that person lost their baby. You see? So we heard about that story. But what we heard later on was that someone very close enough had come back saying that they were now going to be able to use some prescription in order to have their own shadows walking around and doing what it is that they wanted them to do. They also came back saying that they were now taught spells. So there are 3 different instances now where clearly magic and sorcery is being used. If there is anyone left in there that we know we have a responsibility to inform, we must inform them that there's magic involved. They have that right. Every last one of us has that responsibility to inform the people. But inshallah, we will get there, and I thank you very much, because again, the last time we spoke, you were telling me like he has a mission, and be positive about it. And I asked you, what was his mission? Remember that? I asked you, I said, what is his mission? And you said you didn't know.
I don't know. I know what his mission is now.
What do you think his mission is now?
I know what his mission is now. Now I know what his mission is after almost 30 years later.
So you think that the mission was just to build a cult or what?
To destroy Islam. time. That's what this.
Allahumma salli ala.
That was his mission. We took the African Americans out of the ghettos, and man, he came in and he dismantled the whole thing.
Allahu Akbar.
We didn't need him. They didn't need him.
Allahu Akbar. This is, I mean, I'm begging to differ, like, seriously. I mean, well, you have to follow. You have to follow what's coming out on the, you know, how they're trying to refute what, you know, what we're telling them.
Yeah,
how
I've
they.
been looking at it. Yeah, I've been looking. I know these cats. I know Ismail. That was